bit of a Titanic. And on that note, there's the Titanic. I think we've ended up a bit oversized. I've said it before. So one of the joys of old cars is finding things that are missing. You know, scouring the internet, going to swap meets, auto jumble, stuff like that, different shows, and trying to find these things. And yeah, it's great. You know, it's like treasure hunting. You know, so occasionally I turn things up, and you know, it's great. It's really good. It's good for the customer, good on my own stuff, and it's, you know, it's a real joy, that bit of it. But quite often you just can't find the things, and that's why I make stuff like, you know, I've made all this, haven't I? To make all this for it, made all these, been through all that before on other videos, and now we're going to make something else that's missing. But so in here, down inside the footwell, we have a vent. Blows the cool air onto you, keeps you cool in these things. You know, you've got a big glass house in these, and lots of glass, so it's like driving a greenhouse really. So it's great. So you've got this thing here, and this is where air vents in through here. So you've got a control cable up here. By pulling that, alters the flap, and then that ducts air in here and keeps you nice and cool, keeps your legs cool. Nice little feature, nice little piece. But what I've got to do is I've got to make some of this. So if I can get this one out, I can tease this out. I've undone the nuts the other end, so I can get these screws out. We'll get this out and we'll have a look at the job that I'm on about doing, and we'll see what we can do. See if we can't make one, or make the bit that we need, because we've got some of it. So there we are. Right. Right, so there's our air vent. And we've got this surround here. Now here's one off of another car. This is off the Maserati coupe. Now that's a bit of steel stuff, and then it's got brushed chrome finish. That's in steel, and then we got a crackle black finish. Then here we got the same sort of thing, but it's in aluminium or aluminum. And again, the little cover's aluminum, not aluminium. So a different treatment again, slightly different shape to it. And I'm missing one of these on another car. Now I was sort of scouring the internet, and I found this lot. Now this was all listed as a Maserati speaker cover. Maybe it was on some models, but certainly that is not the speaker cover, but I needed one of them. Now that is actually the trim that goes around the gear stick, you know, where the gear stick comes up here. I think we looked at one that I'd straightened out and had re-chromed for this car. So you have the sort of leather gaiter comes up here, and the gear stick will be up in here. So that's lovely. So I thought, well, I'll grab that because I need one of them. And with it come these bits of sort of, you know, bits of aluminium sort of cover stuff. In the set, and one of them in steel, so one of those. So again, when I got that done in the brushed chrome, I got them to sort that bit out. So I've got one. So we got a gear stick bit, and we got our vent. So that's off one car, that's off another car. That's something I needed. That's something I needed. These don't particularly need, but you know, you never know, they might come in handy one day. Keep them. So what we want to do is we need to make the bit that goes with that. So we can either do one in aluminium like that, or we can do this one in steel, or we could make it in brass perhaps. You know, like this is hand formed in brass. So we've got options here of what to make. But it's quite a nice sort of, there's quite a bit of shape on this. Now I quite like this one. Now I quite like the shape of that one. So I'm inclined to replicate that one rather than that one. And we can do what we want, can't we? Because we can, you know, that's it. We get to choose. So I was going to do that one, and we need to make a former. So we've got a bit of stock here, and we're going to make a former. So we need to make a former out of this stock to make one of those, because, you know, we can't do that on its own. We can't just fold that up. You could try it on the bead roller, but it would look quite ugly, I think. You'd struggle. So I thought I'll make a former up for that. So that's today's little job, and see what we can do. So stick that in the lathe, see what we can do, see what we can make. So we want to turn this down to make a former, and we'll do it on the Wilson lathe. So this is a proper lathe, you know, full size. But there you are, there's the Wilson. And it's got screw cutting on it, which is useful. So I've got imperial screw cutting on this, and I've got metric screw cutting on the other one. So pretty much covered there. And you can do all sorts of things on this one. It's got what they call a drop bed. So this bit comes out, and then you can get a flywheel in there or things like that. So there's lots of stuff you can do on this thing. Bit of a Titanic. And on that note, there's the Titanic. School project, we made that with my daughter. So a few years ago. But anyway, I actually had to make two because someone else wanted one, so we had to make one for him as well. But for my daughter, we made that a few years ago. I think we want to make this so we can form it, press it into it. So we want to remove metal around the edge here. So around that area, we're going to remove metal. And then it's going to end up inside of there a bit, so probably in about there. So something like that's what we're after, isn't it? Not a very good pen, but we'll see how we get on. Now I want that out from the chuck a bit, away from the jaws, so I need to space it out. So I'll get something to see if I can get something behind there to move that out. So I'll stick the blocks in, and we push that down against it. That will give us, that spaces us back off the back plate, as it were, and gets us away from the teeth. So hopefully we won't be touching the teeth with our tool. And then we can take them out, or they fall out, as you see. I'll climb down there tomorrow, I think. Right, let's see what that's running like. About that, wasn't it? Okay, we're happy with that. But we've got to work inside now, so we've got to remove the same depth from the inside, and then we'll have to sort of round it off a bit. But let's see if we can get in there. I have to move the tool round a bit. Otherwise we'll be cutting at the wrong angle. So let's see what we're looking at. That's going to do it there. We need to get a bit more off the inside. We're not deep enough yet. Let's get back in there and get that down. Still need a bit more, I think. Yeah, it feels a lot better. I reckon we're getting somewhere now. Right, this is just to run a test piece, but we'll start with something about the right size and see what we got. So I'm going to do one in aluminium because it's soft, and then we know what we've got. Now I'd like to end up with a steel one. But you know, we might do it in brass even. It doesn't really matter what it's made of, you know, because it's going to get that crackle back finish. So you know, we're going to end up with that. But you can see what we're going for. We're going for that, but I think we've ended up a bit oversized. I've said it before. When we're filming, I don't always concentrate enough on what I'm doing. But there we are. There we are. It'll be all right. You get the idea. I think I'm not the only person that does a bit of filming and then goes back and finesses it when the camera's not there. But there we are. Right, so there we are. That's what we've got to do. So we've got to force that into there, haven't we? Now, we could chase that in if we want, but I've got a better idea of another way to try that. So I'll go and get prepped up and we'll try that out. I've made other things like this before, and it's a good technique, it's worked well. So we'll see if we can do this one. We'll see if we can't press that into here rather than chasing it in. So a couple of sheets of rubber. We'll put that on there. Get that centered up. Now that's alley, so I'm going to use another plate on it because otherwise it might, it'll deform and we'll mess it up anyway. Pressing on it will tend to bend that alley rather than bend the former rather than what we're trying to bend, as it were. So I'll stick this on here. Now we might be asking a bit much of it. It might not be strong enough, this press, but we might get a start. And even if we get the start of the impression in here, we can finish it by hand. But we'll see. But this is alley, this is a test piece. We're just looking for proof of concept that it's going to work, and then we'll see from there. It looks like it's deformed it a bit. Okay, a couple more pushes for luck, eh? Anyway, no more than that, I'll burst the holes, won't I? There we go. Right, let's see what we got. We've got something. Well, we got something. Didn't seem to press around the edge properly there, did it? But it's given us that bit. So it makes me wonder if we want to be pressing that into something to get that outside edge. I'm wondering if we should, we almost want to have something, we almost want to be pressing that into a female piece, don't we? That's not bad for a first attempt, is it? Well, humour me, and we'll chase it in with a wooden mallet, I think. What we'll do, we'll clamp that down on our bench, and we'll see if we can chase that in, see what we can get. And so what we really could do is a bigger disc to clamp that in. But anyway, let's just do this and see what we got. Now, I've often talked about these things being development, haven't I? Now, this is an exact example of it, isn't it? Of where we're sort of working on something, trying to sort of develop, see what we got. So let's see if we can... We're sort of nearly there. As I say, that's development, isn't it? That's just the beginning. I think we're onto something there. I think maybe we need to make a disc to go in there and press that in, maybe to get that sharper. But I think we're getting, that's going to do mostly what we've got to do, isn't it? Look, you see what we're trying to do, and it's going to do mostly. If we can get this shape, this bit sharper here, I think from there we can end up with the right thing. Now I said that one's steel, and this one was aluminium, which is a slightly different thing. This is thinner as well. This is 1.5, which is quite thick. This is 1 mil, so we could get it out of that. But I don't want it. I don't want this is too flimsy. I don't like the look of that. If we're going to have it in alley, I want to use the 1.5, which I think it will take it. So we might, because it's quite strong. Now it's got that in it. I think that's quite nice and tough. So I reckon we're onto something there. But yeah, let me see what I can finesse and see if we can see what we can do with that. I reckon we can do something there. Anyway, there's enough banging and crashing about this time of night, innit? I think we'll say good night. Leave it at that. Well, true to my word, I said we'd finesse these things a bit more. So I did a bit more work on this former. I took it down a bit because I felt it wasn't, you know, sort of cutting in enough there. We weren't getting it round enough here. It wasn't tight enough. So that was my little test piece. Now I've had these finished, as you see, in the black crackle, but that was the test piece. But you know, that looked good enough, so I thought we'd get it, you know, finished and painted, as it were. Or actually, this is a powder coating, but more about that in a minute. So that's the actual one. So that's my finished piece. I've just mounted it on here to keep it nice. So yeah, so it sort of curls round more here, and we've got a sharper edge there. And then I actually dimpled these, so that I take these little self-tappers, these little, you know, countersunk little countersunk screws. So yeah, they've got a little countersunk in there I chased in. So yeah, that worked nicely. To get that to do that, I had to make a disc up, which we could sort of press into here to get that edge a bit sharper, which worked quite well. I was quite pleased with that. I ended up making 2 discs, but anyway, I won't go into why I made 2, but that allowed me to clamp it all together whilst I was working on it. So I put it in the lathe to turn the edges down to get it nice and round. So we've got some pictures of that, so we'll have a look at that. So that turned out nice. So this stuff, all this finished stuff I get done by my mate Gary of G13 powder coating. He's on the farm, so it's very handy, but he's also very good because he's into his Italian cars and he's been a mechanic, so he understands this stuff that he's working on, you know, not like someone that powder coats garden furniture or something. He doesn't know what they're doing and what needs to be done, so he does a lovely job. So yeah, so that's that one. That was my test piece. This is the other style one that came, you know, it was all aluminium with the aluminium bit. That's off of the Maggioli coupe. That's a different shape altogether, but that's obviously they changed things around. But I replicated this later style for the 3.7, which is the one I'm doing it for. And you remember we used that, we pressed it into the rubber and so on to get a start, didn't we? So we pressed that into there. That gave us a start. And then, as I say, I had to finish it off a bit. Thought about making it in steel, but it turned out quite nice. I thought I'd just carry on with that. It doesn't do a lot. It doesn't have to be that strong. And if they could make it in alley, you know, it doesn't matter, does it? So let's have a look at some of this other stuff. This is some of the other stuff Gary does. So again, this is your black crackle, and then we highlight the bits by, you know, linishing it up there. So he gives a lovely blasted finish, cleans it all up, vapor blasted, and then does the black crackle, which come out lovely. That's the fans. When we have to restore the fans, that's a lot of work. So you start with vapor blasting because this is steel and getting these cleaned up. Then they go off to Peter Tester, the polisher. He polishes all this stuff up. Pete of South Eaton Metal Polishers. And then it has to go back to Gary, who then has to mask this off and then paint this bit or powder coat it. So it's a fair process to do them fans, but they do come out nice. So that's that. That's the heat shield goes on the exhaust. This is something I made to replicate the original. And yeah, as ever, I try and get it exactly the right thing. And that's done in a sort of heat treated finish, so that won't pickle up and will come off next to the exhaust. This is in this sort of satin black he does. This is an engine mount. Another little piece I made. This is a bracket that goes on the heater valve. So that's a little piece I fabricated up and then got him to finish it. And then here we are. We have the Maserati breather. Crankcase breather. So again, a different finish again in the silver finish, but that's come out lovely as well. So he does a nice job with these things. There's still some old coke in there. Here we are. Unless something crewed up in it and died, I don't know. So there, you get an idea. That's the sort of stuff he does, and that's how I like to get it up to a nice standard. So pleased with them. So yeah, that was it. So. And you remember to make these, I did it on the old Wilson lathe, so did a lovely job on that. Nice, that lathe. Of course, you know what I'm going to say where that come from, my old mate Graham. So, and the silly thing, that lathe, I've known that lathe since I started in the motor trade, because when I first visited, it was there, and it's a bloody great Leviathan for a lathe. I remember looking at it thinking, cool, that's a thing, isn't it? And then, as I say, eventually it came my way. And then it's had a story because one of the places it was in, they actually had a fire there, and apparently it fell through the ceiling. You know, I don't know how true that is, because surely it would have you know, messed it up. But no, apparently it did. I think it landed on something, it broke its fall. But anyway, it had yeah, quite a life before I got it. So yeah, I think we should call it Jackie, don't you? Jackie Wilson. Because it's not Reet Petite, is it? Anyway, there we are. Or Lonely Teardrops. Okay, that'll do for today. Enough nonsense, eh? You get the idea, don't you? It's all about mucking about with these old things, isn't it?